Please, technology work. Okay. Get my examples out of the way. Okay. Step one is everybody's going to start with a pinch pot, a small pinch pot. I got a little carried away this morning. When we normally do pinch pots, like I've said, they've been containers for things, and we're trying to get away from that this year, so we don't really need it to be too terribly large. You're going to get a pound of clay. So what you're going to want to do is separate it in half. Half will be the pinch pot, and half will be the coils and the add-ons and the things that you use to extend it. And the first thing you want to do, which is a little new for us, is give the clay a good whack on your mat. You're not trying to flatten it out into a pancake. You're just trying to kind of get it into a nice consolidated hunk. What we don't want is trapped air between pieces of clay. So this is our equivalent of wedging all of that air out of the clay. Pockets of air can be a problem for us because moisture hides in there like little caves, okay? And we don't like moisture. It blows up. So get in the habit of just giving your clay a couple good whacks on the table before you get started because it combines it all. The other thing is the clay that you're going to get is going to feel a little firmer. It is not. It's just been sitting for 8 months in the closet. It's actually wonderfully plastic and really good for working with. It's just going to feel a little firm right off the bat. Okay, so I've whacked it against the table. All right, so another thing, you probably have extra clay in your bag. All right, we're going to use that clay up. So you want to check on it. If it is the same consistency as the clay you're using, you can combine it all up into a ball. If the clay in your spare bag is hard, add a bunch of water and let it sit. All right, but we're not throwing that clay away. I've calculated that in to be for the extras on your bells. Okay. Ball of clay. Get it as round as you possibly can because it'll make it easier for you. All right. You remember from the pinch pot, you're going to do, or the slip cup, you're going to take your thumb. I'm holding the ball of clay in one hand, and then I'm going to push down like past halfway, like 3/4, right into the center of the ball of clay. Okay? And now I'm going to pinch with the flat part of my thumb and the flat part of my fingers, not 2 fingers. You want a crab claw. And I'm going to start by lightly pressing, okay, and moving around in a circle, and I'm focusing on the bottom of this pinch pot. So my fingers are kind of wrapped around the bottom of the pinch pot, and my pinches are overlapping. That is key because you're going for really even, smooth walls here, and the overlapping of the pinches gives you the smoothest finish. I'm not like skipping around the pinch pot like this. All right, so I'm going to do a couple laps at the bottom and then measure using my needle tool. So I'm going to poke it in until I feel the needle tool on my thumb, and then I hold my thumb on the outside here. Don't move it on the tool, and then slide it out, and that tells you how thick the clay is there. So you want it about the thickness of your pencil tool. Sorry, I have a tendency to carry off my tools. It's okay though, because here's a pencil and it's the same thing. So I'm going for about this thickness, okay? Then I'm gonna, once I've got it thin enough here, I'm gonna slide my thumb up and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do a couple laps around the middle. If it cracks open like this, I just stop, take the time, and just like blend it together. It's not that the clay is necessarily too dry, it's just it's a stress point there and they start to split at the top, and we're gonna cut them off anyway. I'm going to keep working my way around. And then move up to the top. Notice how I'm not using 2 hands. That's an illegal pinch pot move. I'm not working on the table because it's just going to make things flat. All right, you really want to only be pinching with that one hand and supporting with the other hand, or kind of turning it with the other hand. The other thing is my thumb is always on the inside because I want to take advantage of this curve that naturally my thumb has. The minute you start doing this and pinching, you're going to get a flare out, which is not what we want. Okay, so your thumb on the inside, is not by accident. That's on purpose. All right, so I'm going to pinch until I'm sure it's even thickness. I'm going to measure in a couple spots just to make sure. All right, so this would be good. Now I want to trim the top because it's rough and rugged, and I want to have a nice flat space to attach my coils. So I'm going to start with my needle tool. I'm going to put my hand on the mat. All right, your hand is not going to move. The pinch pot is going to move. So I'm going to line it up at like the lowest area, okay? And I'm going to hold my hand and the needle tool still, and I'm just going to spin this guy. Ta-da! Then I'm going to take the bladed end of my dentist tool, and I'm just going to follow that line. Which I believe we did for your slip pots, so this is just a larger version. Okay. And then you can also double check your thickness at this point, so this edge should be all nice and even thickness all the way around. So I go around and just double check. Okay. That's the pinch pot itself. Okay. Depending on your sketch, you could use a lot less clay and get a much smaller pinch pot, and then use coils and have like a really tall, narrow bell like it's up on my board. That's up to you. So each of them are going to be different. Now I'm going to start with some of my extra clay. I roll it between my hands first to get kind of the coil started. And then you want to get the crusties off your mat. Otherwise, you're just rolling crusty clay into your coils, which is going to look gross and feel gross. Okay? And you're going to roll with the whole length of your hand. If you do this, it's just going to be like lumpy, okay? And it'll never be smooth. So I'm going to roll back and forth, nice long motions, and you want to think like to the left, to the left, to the right, to the right. What is that, like the electric slide or the cha-cha? What is the... To the left, to the left, to the right, to the right. See, it's the same thing. Follow that. Cupid Shuffle, that's what it is. All morning, I'm like, what's the song I'm singing? And everyone's like, I have no idea. Stop it. Okay. So you're going back and forth, and that's going to keep it from getting too lumpy on you. And you're going to roll it out till it's about the thickness of your pencil tool, maybe a little thicker. So I want it to be about the thickness of this edge here. And it's okay if you have a bunch of like little short ones. We can patch them together. It doesn't have to go all the way around. No, not necessary. All right, so then I'm going to score, and then I'm going to slip, because you always, always, always do that. It's never optional. Okay? Especially in this case, because if you don't have enough scoring or you smooth it out too much when you're applying your slip, your coils are going to slide all over the place, which we don't want. We want them to stay exactly where you put them. And where you put them determines the shape of your bell or the form you're building. All right, so what do I mean by that? If I put them directly on top of the edge of my pinch pot, the walls are going to go straight up. You're just stacking them on top of each other. Trick, if you layer them on top of each other and then cut down through both, you can take this little piece out, you can take this extra off, and they'll match up perfectly. Okay, so that's going to build a wall straight up. So if I stack the next one directly on top, I would just start moving up just like a chimney, okay? If I wanted, let's say, for it to taper like this and start to go out and create like a bell shape or whatever else you have planned, okay? It's the placement of this next coil that matters. So on top would be straight up, but if I wanted to go out, I'm going to place it on the outside edge of this coil here. slip. And then I'm going to stick it kind of on the outside. I give them like a little wiggle is enough to get them to stick. So see how now from the side, so that's on the outside of this coil down here. And if I look at it from above, I can see the coil underneath it a little bit peeking out here. Okay. So now imagine that I have done this all the way around. I like to do like 2 or 3 coils and then smooth them because I think it goes a little bit faster, but you can stick on a coil and then smooth it and then stick on another coil and smooth it. There's like no law against that. I'm just going to stick this last piece on here. Okay, so let's say I've stacked up a couple of my coils and now I'm ready to smooth because we don't want to see these coils from the outside. Hang on. All right, so I'm going to put my non-dominant hand, okay, on the inside to support the pinch pot. And I'm using, you can use your thumb, your actual thumb, but I like the thumb end of this modeling tool, so everyone should have one of these in their kit for this exact reason. And you're going to work your way around one coil. I got to get the crusties off my tool. One coil at a time and blend it in. So I'm blending the coil into the edge of the pinch pot. And my hand's on the inside of this pinch pot, so I have something to press against. If you work like this, you're going to crush the pinch pot, applying pressure to one side, and it's going to end up folding in half. So I'm blending that first coil down, and then I'm blending this second coil down. This is why you don't want your coils to be too thin either. You don't want like spaghetti noodles, because then there will be nothing to blend. And the blending is what keeps this from falling apart as it dries. So these little tiny coils are going to shrink faster if we aren't careful than this pinch pot. And then when they shrink faster, they're going to snap apart. You don't want all the coils snapping off of your bell. So this step's going to look like a little rough. I don't want to say like messy necessarily, but there's definitely going to be some tool marks, and that's normal. Work all the way around. You have ends that are popping apart like this. Slip in there. Wiggle them together. Blend them together. Score, slip, stitch. This is stitching. Okay. I would keep doing that. I've got the shape I want, but the surface is all lumpy, and I do not like this. All right, so what do? All right, you're gonna, this is my favorite step, probably, hands down. Clean your metal rib off, okay? And you're going to rough this surface up. You're going to use the serrated side, and you're going to scratch like in an X pattern. I just do a little section at a time, so we're going to work on this one over here. And I really scratch this up. And so the serrated, the teeth on the rib are taking off the high spots and kind of smearing the clay into the little divots. It also helps keep those coils together because you're doing like more of what you were doing with this with the little teeth on the tool. Okay, so I've roughed out this whole section. All right, this is my favorite part. Take the flat side of the rib here, okay, and you're gonna lay it down on the surface, not at a 90-degree angle, so lay it down at like 30 degrees. And you're gonna drag it like you're combing kind of the clay down, clean it off. And it makes a nice smooth, like butter. See? You're laying all of those clay particles down on the surface. Keep cleaning it off so you don't have crusties. Look at that. It's like shiny, like butter. I know it is. That is why it's my favorite thing. Like you could do this and you'll just be like at peace. It's so fun. Okay. Getting all excited now. Okay. And then you got to be careful. You might have to switch directions so that you don't poke the project with the with the teeth on the serrated rib, and you don't want to mess up your shape. And my hand is always on the inside right where I'm working, and then I'll rotate and do the next section. Okay? If it's not working, it's probably because your tool is too straight up and down. It's like you're spreading butter, seriously, onto the toast. Okay? All right. So I'd do that all the way around. And then you would start to attach your pieces. So attach your handle. If you're going with a clay handle, kind of like this for a bell you would ring. I did also throw out the option to string up a bell, okay, if you want to have a hole in the top and string it up with ribbon, okay, that would be an option. Your bell also needs a hole to string your clapper through. So I don't want to forget those and be drilling holes in hard bells at the end, okay, so if you need to do that right off the bat so you don't forget. And then you're going to be adding your textures and your additive items. Remember, it's 2 additive items. That could be, like if I was doing this and I was adding on these bricks, they count as an additive item, and this handle counts as an additive thing. So you're likely going to have a lot more than 2. 2 would be like the bare minimum. And then 3 different textures. And remember, each of those items and those textures is likely going to tie back into your theme.